Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down A Quiet Place Day 1. The brand new prequel has just released and it tells the ground level story of an alien invasion, taking place in
New York City.
It's a perspective that we've not seen in the franchise before. Throughout this video, we're going to break it all down and talk about where we leave things at the end. We'll also be going over the news of part 3, so make sure you stick around for that part of the video. From here on out, it's heavy spoilers ahead, so check out here if you haven't seen the movie. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, and if you subscribe now, then you can tell your mates you've been a fan since day one. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into A Quiet Place Day 1. Okay, so whereas both part 1 and 2 took place in rural America, here we're in a modern day metropolis. This allows us to see things from day 1, though we have watched that in the franchise before. Part 2 opened with us seeing things from the beginning, but here it's expanded beyond just a prologue. Following a terminally ill cancer patient named Sam, she's living out her final few days at a hospice. Writing poems about how shit life in this channel is, she's resigned herself to death. Sam's already said goodbye to the city and has pretty much closed the door on the past. However, a spark of light comes when her nurse invites her to go and see a show in the city. Sam demands that they get pizza after it, and throughout the film we learn why this is so important to her. It turns out that one of her happiest childhood memories is something she used to do regularly with her dad. A much-loved piano player, he'd take her out to a show and then they'd go get pizza at a restaurant called Patsy's. Sam wants to relive this for one final time, and it pretty much becomes the driving force of the movie. I describe Day 1 as basically an art house film that's about a cancer patient seeing the beauty in life and the place they lived and loved at. Only thing is, it's set to the backdrop of aliens arriving on Earth, which is where it all really hits the fan. Now when they drop in, there's clear metaphors for 9/11, with characters wandering through clouds of ash that litter the landscape. I think the movie as a whole is about the resilience of the human spirit and about people seeing what it is that means the most to them. To me, it's basically one of those things where it's like, if you had one day left on Earth, what would you do? Subscribe probably, and that to me explains why Sam does what she does, and we follow her as she goes back to get some pizza. Now I think some people will probably have some issues with the believability of this, beyond the aliens, and how much some of the characters put themselves in danger to make sure she can do it. This includes Eric, who she meets around the midpoint of the movie. A lawyer from Britain. Bloody love the guy. He's basically a lost cat, just like her little one Frodo. Following her because he has nowhere else to go, the pair make their way across the city. There's some minor references to the prior films with running water and fire masking sounds, and we also have location points like the radio station stuff in part 1. Medicine plays a part at one point as well, and we also have boats offering sanctuary. Now the Monhon Zoo pops up early on in the movie, and he of course showed up in part 2. He has to kill someone in order to protect his son, and he ends up making it to a boat to escape the city. Unfortunately, we don't really get much more beyond that, and the actor appears more as a cameo. I was hoping we'd get focus on him and him having to protect his son, with him having to go to more and more extremes to make sure he was safe. It did feel like they were setting that up, but unfortunately it felt like it was missing from the movie in the end. What does get a lot of focus to make up for it though is Sam's life, and I actually think the message here is a really human one. The pair eventually make it to Patsy's, but they find it destroyed. However, they go to a bar and sit on stage next to the piano. Eric ends up sneaking off and getting pizza from somewhere else, and he writes Patsy's on the box. I think this highlights it's about making the most of what you have, and it definitely brings a smile to Sam's face. The entire thing has been a trip down memory lane, and it's actually highlighted by a book that we see in the movie. At one point, Sam crouches behind a cot and sniffs a book, and on a trolley we can see Happiness Falls. Top level analysis of that, but it's about the disappearance of a man, and we follow his family as they try and track him down. As they go through it, we learn more and more about him, and it's an eye-opening look at the depths of a person. There's also things to do with cognition, strength, and people being more than they appear, which definitely can be applied to Sam in the film. In the end, the pair see boats in the river, with them blasting out horns. Smashing up car windows like the like button, this sets off the alarms, and it gives Eric the chance to narrowly escape. Finding a note saying to look after her cat, it gives Eric a new lease on life and purpose, whereas in the past he was lost. We cut to Sam sitting at Patsy's looking at a photo of her and her father. Blasting Feeling Good by Nina Simone, we see the creatures close in as she sees the positives in life and looks back on hers feeling good. It's an opposite to her poem at the start about feeling shit and thematically builds off a lot of the symbolism in the prior films. Radios and playing things were of course staples of the ending of the last two movies, but there it was about defeating the creatures, whereas here it has a deeper meaning to it. In the end, Sam saves someone else and embraces the life she led. It's quite a poignant way to close things out, with teasers for where we're going being left on the boat. We know what happens with Henry on the island, but there are still other directions they could go. Now, as for A Quiet Place Part 3, Emily Blunt revealed all the way back in 2021 that the movie was in production. Obviously, the pandemic hit us and it put a major spanner in the works, so everything across the board got pushed back, with it being delayed a number of years. Now, due to it being announced in 2021, a lot of people assumed they changed plans and instead went with the spin-off. However, it has been announced that they are separate films and Part 3 is still coming out. Part 3 was officially announced in February 2022, with its release date being penciled in for 2025. They have said it's delayed indefinitely, and at the moment I'm not 100% sure if it's going to hit that, but hopefully we get some clarity over the weekend. Just to clarify for you guys, if you're watching this in the future, this video is dropping on the Friday it comes out. Now, Damon Hanzu appears in both Part 2 and Day 1, with him dying in the former. However, his connection to this could mean that those on the island end up going out to unite with some of the cast. New York is of course a hub of the invasion, and it could be the first city that humanity takes back. New York is also filled with massive radio stations, so like, maybe they could blast the signal across the planet. Is that how it works? Does it work like that? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But either way, I do think for Part 3 that we'll see the connective tissue. It's been said it's the final part in the trilogy, and this is going to bring things to a close. Now, as for my thoughts on the movie, A Quiet Place actually has a special place in my heart. That first movie hit when I was just starting off the channel, and our ending explained blew up and got us a lot of views. John Krasinski even talked about our theories in an interview with my mate Bamalam, and it was a big part of getting some eyes on the channel. Then Part 2 was a film I had tickets for and was just about to go and see before everything got locked down. It got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, and it kept playing in my mind because that was like the thing I was going to see that I'd end up seeing when everything was lifted. Like, I remember being sat there in the theatre, finally seeing it, being like, I can't believe this is happening. When my twins were born, we also did some content in advance that would drop when I was going to be spending a couple of days in the hospital. I chose to break down both Part 1 and 2 to go out when I was there with my wife, so yeah, as a franchise, it's been there for some milestones. Although I was really hyped for the movie, it's obviously a new setting, time frame, and different sort of story. The first two films were family focused, whereas from the trailers it seemed more like survivors coming together. As with all the movies though, this is a very human story, with it actually surprising me how much it focused on character building. Totally though, this is very action heavy, whereas those first two films were more focused on the characters without the constant monsters. That first one especially, you're basically just watching a family living in the world, and in the back of your mind, you're aware the threats are there. However, they're mainly just doing laundry, having meals and communicating through sign language, with the odd creature running to keep you on your toes. Day 1 is more about keeping you on the edge of your seat, and on the most part, it really succeeds. I think tonally, a good comparison would be the first two Alien movies, with Alien being more of a horror one, whereas Aliens is more of an action one. I think tonally that's the same thing here, with it being way more about spectacles in the city. Now, I feel like when you exchange horror for action, that you lose some of the intensity. That's not to say the film doesn't have those moments, but they didn't really feel as impactful to me. For example, that first movie, I remember watching it and it was dead silent in the cinema. You could hear a pin drop, and the silence on screen made it feel like you were almost part of the movie. You had to keep quiet because, yeah, you didn't want those guys to die, and it was a very immersive experience. Yeah, though, a lot of that's gone, and you're kind of just seeing more action-heavy stuff. Now, where my criticisms come in is that I think for some people, it might just feel like more of the same, even though the setting, time, and characters are new. That first film felt really fresh in its concept, whereas now we're 3 movies into it, and I wouldn't say it necessarily does a lot of things that we haven't seen in other monster movies. I also think pacing-wise, you have issues with the story focus. There's a lot of attention given to the cat and going to get pizzas. Should have called it Pizza Parker, because it's pizza time. Now, Now that might bore some people because I think a lot might think it's low stakes when, you go into a big movie and you expect big things. I think that's going to be where a lot of people might get bored, and yeah, it's all going to depend on your interest in the characters. Now on top of that, I think they don't really explore the creatures or even hint at things in an interesting way that I think would have helped out the story. When you're 3 movies into an Alien franchise like this, you expect there to be at least some new information given about what they are. Our first film had a tease of the military posters and reports from the ground. I thought that in this film we'd be fleshing out things like that, but on the whole, it's pretty bare bones. There's no real discussion or answers given to exactly what these things are, and at this point they feel more just like obstacles. There also isn't much of a plot here to completely hook you, and it can get pretty repetitive. A lot of it's just the 2 characters making their way through a hazardous environment, and then they have to navigate around either an alien or a handful. They then rest up and make their way to the next spot where it's the same thing again. Now I think what lifts the movie are the human performances, with both actors here giving a lot of emotion. There's some really good parts, such as the last bit at the bar and them screaming in the apartment as the rain blocks out the sound. Beyond that though, I don't think there's anything here to make this a must watch, and to me, you could completely skip this and probably be fine just jumping into part 3. It's definitely not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, and as far as the craft goes, it's really well made. Stuff like the chessboard, the rain falling on ladders, and the traffic lights, it all kind of thematically ties into that idea of hearing the city. However, there's not really anything, to me at least, that gets into the meat and expands the franchise beyond what we've already been served so far. So yeah, it's difficult to recommend, as there's nothing I can say that it doesn't succeed at. If this was the first movie in the franchise, I think I'd be a lot more hyped on it, but it's just not pushing the envelope enough to really make me want to tell everyone to go and see it. It'll be interesting to see what the word of mouth is like, and though it's a solid entry in the franchise, it's definitely the weakest. I don't think people will enjoy it as much as the first 2, but obviously let me know below exactly what you think. Please drop a like on the video, and if you want to support the channel as a member of the Spoiler Society, then please click the join button. We get early access to videos every week, and it goes a massive way towards helping us out. If you want to get some heavy spoilers merch, we've also got our t-shirt line located just below the video that will let you pick up all kinds of tops like our These On Ones, House of Dragons stuff, Me and the Boys, our Marvel tees and more. We drop new designs on there all the time too, so definitely keep an eye out, and thanks for all your support. Now if you want something else to watch, you've got a breakdown on screen right now going over the brand new episode of The Boys. There's lots of Easter eggs, funny moments, callbacks, and a big direction for the future, so if you're watching the show, then definitely check that out. With that out of the way, huge thank you for sticking through this video. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.